Hello JRPG fans! So this is going to be the final EB Expo video, and it's really not even an EB Expo video, it's a Zelda Breath of the Wild video. So I got to play Breath of the Wild for nearly an hour, a little bit more than some people, which is really cool, and it was amazing, and I'm going to talk to you about my experience, exactly what went down. But first, Nintendo of Australia, it was at the EB Expo, which is in Australia. They gave me this cool little thing when I got to go in. So yeah, I was very happy with that. Gives you some details on the back about the Play Pass. But yeah, it's very cool. I think I'm going to use that as a bookmark. Very, very cool. So the demo, or the game, Breath of the Wild. I got to play 20 minutes from the very start. So basically the second you start a new game, I got to play 20 minutes for that. And they switch it over, and I should have played for 20 minutes in just an open world section where they've given you a bunch of stuff. And actually it was in the reverse order. But I actually played closer to 40 minutes in the free roaming exploration area. Straight up, the reports were that Monolith Soft were helping Nintendo make Zelda Breath of the Wild, or they were working on it as well. Monolith Soft, as some of you guys may know, are the developers of Xenoblade Chronicles X and Xenoblade Chronicles, and it will come as no shock to tell you that the world, the map and that sort of thing feels very similar to Xenoblade Chronicles X, and that is a really good thing. It is huge. The demo was exactly the same as what they had at E3, and so you're only on the center platform plateau. You're right in the middle of the map, and it was huge. I tried to go as far as I could. I think I started around somewhere in the middle on the exploration part, and I tried to just get to one end. And I sort of did, I think, but I'm not 100% sure if that was actually the end or if that was just sort of like a cliff. But it took a while, and there was plenty there. It was a huge map just for that center part, and that is really the smallest part of the world map as you look out. I did try and get some info on the actual size of the map if we had comparisons to other games, but Nintendo in general are extremely tight-lipped about it, and not even the couple of guys that I spoke to, not the couple of Nintendo Australia guys that I spoke to, even had something to compare it to. But it is huge, and I will say that it's definitely bigger than Xenoblade Chronicle X's map. Definitely bigger. I don't know by how much, but yeah, it's definitely at least slightly bigger than that. It's really huge, and it's really cool. The world itself is not boring. It hasn't fallen into the trap, and I'll probably get some flack for this, but I hated Skyrim, like, a lot. I mean, I didn't hate it, but I tried to get into it because everybody kept telling me to play it. And I tried it on both PS3, and I also tried it on PC 2 separate times. In total, I've probably played around 8 hours, and I'll never touch that game again. I just found the world, massive, but empty and boring. Every single, tomb thing was identical. There was not really much happening in the world, and the combat was shite. But that's Skyrim. It hasn't fallen into that trap where it's a really massive world, but it's empty. There are some really cool stuff littered around. So there are moblin camps sort of scattered around everywhere, and they don't seem random. They seem pretty well placed, pretty well designed. There's usually some sort of really cool creative way that you can destroy the camp. One of the biggest things in this new Zelda is sort of like everything is destructible, and it's not like one of those really lame ways. I remember back on like the old Incredible Hulk game on like PlayStation 2 and GameCube and that sort of thing, where the whole world was destructible, which just basically meant that you could punch anything and it would just get destroyed in the exact same way. If you punch a wall, it would destroy. If you punch, it's not like that. It's pretty. The engine is really dynamic, so you can, for instance, like chop down a tree, and you can use a proper like axe, a woodman's axe, and that will take it down in a couple of shots. Or you can hack away at it with a sword, and you'll actually see the indents in the tree, and it will fall in a relative direction. It will fall like closer according to physics than just some random video game effect. And yeah, there are a bunch of cool stuff, like you can push boulders over and they'll just continue rolling. Like if you push a boulder off a cliff, and there are a lot of cool camps like that set up where there's a boulder on a cliff overhanging, and you can knock it off and it will knock over a makeshift fort that they've made, and that's really cool. You can blow up you can blow up like explosive barrels with fire, and you can do that with fire arrows, or you can put it just in a campfire. You can swing at it with a stick, a Deku stick that's on fire, and like everything can sort of be used or picked up and used in some way. I mean, when I say everything, I don't mean you can just like pick up a blade of grass or something, but yeah, you can pick up just sticks. You'll find Deku sticks, and you can pick up all the weapons that your enemies use, and that's actually the way in the in the start of the game. The first 20 minutes that I played at the start, that was basically where I got everything. There was the fake Master Sword, which was just a rusty sword, and you just pick that up randomly. But all my other stuff, like the bow, came off killing an enemy. And you sort of accumulate a really wide range of equipment and weapons just from killing enemies, and that is a big thing. It's a really big change from Zelda. There aren't from the old Legend of Zelda. It's a really big change, and it feels good. It really does feel good. But a little caveat in that there are no Wii U gamepad features whatsoever, like none. It was There was one minor one, which is when you're aiming with a bow, you can use the motion controls to aim with the bow, and you actually can't turn that off in this E3 demo. But it's, the E3 demo is now aging quite a bit, so I imagine they've made some strides. It's unsure whether it will actually have Wii U gamepad features, though, on final release. But there were none. It was just basically a placeholder with controls down the bottom. And having to constantly go through different menus to switch weapons and gear is really strange in this type of focus, because the focus seems to be on just getting like crap loads of stuff. And so at any given time you have like 5-6 different weapons and heaps of different armors, and you switch them out depending on where you are. Like if it's really cold, you put on something that will keep you warm. And as I said, there's like axes if you need to cut down trees, and then there's swords, which are obviously better. It's really strange that the most convenient thing that the gamepad did on the HD remakes of Twilight Princess and Wind Waker was the fact that you didn't need to open up different menus to change gear. You just basically change gear on the fly, and they don't have that in the Legend of Zelda that is highly focused on changing gear all the time. And it was a mild annoyance. Having the mini-map though on the screen was like nothing. The other things doesn't really affect, like the lack of gamepad features doesn't really affect the game, apart from just having to open menus, change gear, close menu, that sort of thing. It just really does feel like it slows down the game compared to Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD. But it definitely didn't mar the experience. The new big mechanic, which is climbing, you can sort of just climb almost any surface, like cliff faces. And you have a little energy bar, so you do actually, you can't sort of just climb infinitely, but it is it is slightly tedious, and it takes a long time. Like the climbing speed is really slow, so to actually do any sort of climbing, like there was one force section of climbing, and you're actually climbing down this sort of like tower structure, and yeah, it just felt really like slow and tedious. Almost like it was there to slow us down in the demo so we wouldn't get very far. But I'm sure that wasn't the case, and maybe they'll adjust that with playtesting internally. I hope they do. But it's a cool new mechanic because it does mean that Link can sort of go anywhere, and I guess that's another big focus, the big open world and the fact that you can go anywhere. And from my experience, the things in the distance are truly the things in the distance that you see and can go to, much like Xenoblade Chronicles X. There's no like sort of fake backdrops that you can't get to, or there's no sort of like random fake buildings in the background that you can't get to. If you see something in the background, you can get there. Very much like Xenoblade Chronicles X. One of the really cool things I experienced in the exploration mode was just basically a random boss or mini boss, and I didn't know it at the time. I was just stumbling around, and there was sort of this clearing, I guess like a grassy area, and there was just a big rock right in the middle of it, like sort of like a collection of rocks actually, right in the middle of the clearing. And I walked over, and there is a jump button in this Zelda game. There is a jump button, and it feels so, I mean, it doesn't feel strange actually. The thing, I guess, is if all you play is Zelda games, like if that's all you play and you've just been playing one recently, it's going to feel weird to have a jump button. But in the reverse, if you play lots of other games, it's actually going to Zelda games that don't have a jump button that feels weird. This feels natural, especially with the jump mechanic, especially with the climbing mechanic. Anyway, I decided to jump on the boulder just to sort of see in the distance, and that boulder stood up out of the ground, sort of got on two legs, threw me off, and I could see there was so it looks like a mining vein from World of Warcraft. It was sort of just like one jagged thing, and that was this thing's weak spot. It was basically like this giant boulder thing, but he stood up on legs, and your jump was nowhere near high enough to get on the thing. And so I ran around, I ran up because there was a sort of like an elevated area, and I thought I can jump from there. But essentially he didn't get close enough to that. He just kept throwing things at me from afar. I thought, how am I going to do this? Eventually working it out, and when I say everything is destructible, even these bosses, or this mini boss, this golem thing, is destructible. In that I essentially placed a bomb near his legs, and when I exploded the bomb, his leg shattered, and so he was then back down on the ground as if he was a boulder, and I could climb up him like I had done at the start before he threw me off, before he stopped and threw me off, and I could attack the weak spot. And his legs did grow back. Obviously, it was it was awesome though. It was awesome. And that was just randomly out in the world. It wasn't too, as far as I know, I had no like quest objective or side quest objective, and there probably will be a side quest for that thing. I just happened to have stumbled on it, but it made the world feel alive. Not only are there all these camps, and not only are there these mini bosses, there is these cool like heritage sites, I guess you could call them, and it was there was like a destroyed Temple of Time. It actually came up in the bottom. It said Temple of Time, but it was just destroyed, like utterly destroyed. And that was actually part of a direction or a quest or a side quest or something to go there and check it out. But there is stuff like that all over the place, and I'm willing to bet that a lot of them are Easter eggs, like the broken structures and that sort of thing are going to be Easter eggs from other games, or hints into where this game fits in the timeline. And yeah, I mean, I could talk about this for probably the next 3 hours, but I probably talked for quite long enough, almost 15 minutes. Those were my experiences in general. The story was, from what I played, because I only got to play the first sort of like 20 minutes, and we didn't make it. I don't think anybody in the play session made it to the place where you got the magnetic lifting tablet thingy, so we didn't actually get to test the first technology side of things. But from what we saw at E3, that's going to obviously play a big part in the game, and being able to lift things. And as excuse me, as I said, the world is totally destructible, and yeah, it's going to be awesome. Just sort of pick things up and throw them around, and it'll really help you explore the world and destroy the world and destroy camps and that sort of thing. I didn't run into any bugs at all. It didn't take me very long to get used to the controls. The aiming was fine. The arrow, the arrow aiming, the arrow distance, all that stuff felt really good and was really easy to just pick up. There was like a sort of like an awesome slow-mo action mode, where you could slow down and aim a couple of arrows before you landed, if you jumped off a cliff and that sort of thing. And I believe once you get a Pona, you can jump off a Pona and do the exact same thing, the slow-mo mode. Yeah, no bugs at all, which is I expected to, as I was playing around with the destructible things, with destructible world, I expected there to be a bunch of bugs. Just things like if I knock this boulder into that fort, it's just going to bug out, or something like the boulder might not go through the fort, or there'll be a random, like, yeah, jittery texture or something like that. I didn't experience any bugs. There were slight frame rate dips here and there. But again, it is, I mean, this version is obviously going to be far behind what they're currently playtesting internally, and I imagine little frame rate dips like that's going to be optimization towards launch. Like, it's not going to be their massive priority. It was far from not being playable. It was well playable. It was incredible. There was no, yeah, the slight frame rate dips here and there, and it was essentially when there was massive big stuff going on screen, like if there was a camp with like 8 moblins in it, and I shot a fire arrow at an explosive, and that exploded like 3 different barrels. There was some frame rate dips. And I would expect that kind of stuff even on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One games. And this was running on a Wii U. The Wii U was right there in front, so it wasn't running any custom hardware or anything like that. Yeah, it was amazing. I cannot wait for it. It is easily going to be a game that you can drop hundreds of hours into. If that center plateau is any sense of scale, then you are easily going to spend hundreds of hours in this game, much like I did in Xenoblade Chronicles X. It was fantastic. Cannot praise it enough. It's going great, and I couldn't be more excited for Zelda Breath of the Wild or the Nintendo NX, whatever that may be. Thanks for listening, guys, and I will see you all soon.